I'm here in the Parish Hall of St. Joe's with Terry Byrne, and we're continuing our history series on St. Joseph's Church. So we're standing now on the stage in the Parish Hall. Why did the Oblates build this stage, Terry?
Well, it's a good question, Chris. Based on my research, I'd say that they built it as a result of what was happening in the community at the time. They were preaching about the need to have activities for young people, that young people should not be outside their home after 10 o'clock at night, that the importance of family, that they should be reading quality information. So to give life to this, I believe that by 1938, the CYO, the Catholic Youth Organization, was formed in the city. And that allowed the youth of the parish, those people 18 to 35, to be involved in faith activities, sports activities, social activities, etc. And at St. Joe's, that's when we started the CYO.
So Terry, you were mentioning quality programming for youth. How many plays were presented using this stage?
Well, based on my research to date, there was 20 plays in total. The first one was in 1939, in which it was called Fool's Luck. And I should point out that a lot of the plays that were presented, typically after Easter, were scripts written by Oblates. They were often songs written by Oblates, and they were directed by Oblates. So the Oblates played a major role in the development of the youth in this parish, especially involving plays.
Now, would this be the original stage?
Actually, it is the original stage, Chris. The only difference is that the stage is only about half the size it used to be. Behind this white panel here, this wall, we have a carpentry shop. But the stage was beyond that as well. And the youth of the parish who got involved in these plays would end up developing the script, developing the props, painting them, learning their parts, singing songs, practicing, etc. So they were committed to putting on a play each year, and they were sold out, and they're presented for about 4 or 5 nights, and every night they're sold out in this auditorium here, or this hall.
Now, what other activities would have happened here, particularly for the youth?
If I may just add on
Sure.
to the last one, Chris, you know, they were very successful, and by 1955 they decided they wanted to do Broadway shows, and so they changed their name to the Regis Players, and they became fairly well known in the city. But in 1959, we had a new pastor, Father Cornelius Hurley, and he suggested, after coming down to the hall one day to see their practices, that these Broadway shows with women in short skirts and that were not suitable for a Catholic church. So they should be presented elsewhere. So in 1960, they moved these plays to the Ottawa Tech Auditorium, and they changed their name to the Geneseian Players. And there they stayed from 1960 to 64 and put on 5 plays. But the interesting thing was that when the newspaper started talking about the Geneseian Players, they always referred to them as the former St. Joe's Players, or the Regis Players from St. Joe's. So Father Cornelius Hurley didn't really get his wish to have the name of the plays changed, and so it wouldn't reflect badly on St. Joe's.
So St. Joe's obviously had an artistic streak, for sure, and was in with the times. But you did mention to me earlier that there were some other activities that happened as well, particularly for youth. So what would be some of those things that occurred here?
Well, we had our first Girl Guides pack in 1930, and then we had the Scouts, the Brownies, the Cubs, and the Rovers. All traditional types of organizations in a parish. But we also had mixed women's and men's baseball, hockey, We had, in this particular hall, 5 badminton courts. And keep in mind that this hall at the time was a clay court. It was a solid clay. It wasn't cement at that time. So, yeah, we had quite a few activities going on. They also did skiing together. And the Oblates responded to the youth by Sunday morning by putting on a mass at 6 a.m. And the youth would come, put their skis and their poles at the back of the church, and the mass would be held fairly quickly so the youth could get to Union Station to take the train to the Gatineau Hills. They also were involved in field trips to Montreal and to other locations. They had such a variety of activities to such an extent that just about every member of the youth of this parish was involved in some type of activity. And by 1948, the youth under the age of 18 wanted something similar. So St. Joe's then formed the Junior CYO. And I should mention to you, Chris, that there's a lot of Oblates who were actually involved to a great extent, and it would be remiss if I didn't mention some of their names. A lot of people will remember Father Laurie Conlon. He was actively involved. Leo Devine, James Sullivan, Paul Monahan, Stu Gordon, Joseph Mullaney, Swithin Bowers. So all these players, priests, were active players in the development of their youth in our parish.
So if I'm not mistaken, Terry, we also happen to have tennis courts here at St. Joe's. Now, there's no sign of that left anywhere on our property, but where would those have been found?
The tennis courts were originally at the University of Ottawa at the Oval. That's where the people from St. Joe's played tennis in 1920. By 1924, St. Joe's had a reputation for great tennis players. In fact, they had the top men's and women's tennis player in Ottawa. By 1930, the Oblates decided that they're going to take today's current parking lot and make it into a clay court tennis courts. And they had 7 clay court tennis courts in that parking lot. And that's where the youth of the parish played tennis until the early 1950s, at which time the church decided that they are going to change the parking lot into a paved parking lot. The Oblates thought they could still play tennis on a paved lot, but tennis ended in this parish a couple of years thereafter.
As we reach the end of this segment, is there another anecdote from our parish you might be able to share with us?
Well, an interesting one. It comes back from my notes talking to former people involved in plays at the time. And there was one priest called Father Bernard Quinn. And some of the women used to refer to him as BMQOMI for his initials, and OMI being Oblates of Mary Immaculate. But the guys referred to him as the Hound from Heaven. And the reason why they gave him that nickname was Barney Quinn was always interested in trying to get the guys to join the priesthood. So that's how he got the name Hound from Heaven.
Thanks very much for this, Terry. This, I think, gives a brand new perspective on our parish hall and our parish stage.
Thank you, Chris.